So Reform MP Robert Jenrick tried his best to defend Nigel Farage on the media rounds, but it didn't end very well. This is Robert Jenrick with Laura Kusenberg.
Clear about some facts in this story here. Did Nigel Farage stay at that townhouse near Buckingham Palace, which costs thousands of pounds a month?
Well, just to be clear, George Cottrell is an old friend of Nigel Farage's. He did give support to Nigel before he was a Member of Parliament. He hasn't done so since he became a Member of Parliament. No rules have been broken whatsoever. This is basically a very old story that has been dredged up by the Sunday Times, which is a Labour-supporting newspaper, in order to try and drag Nigel down. And
I'd like you
it's not going to succeed.
But let's look at the Sky News clip of Jenrick getting grilled as well.
Now, in a whole chain of smears that's trying to drag Nigel down. And we're
to the ordinary
Let's talk about the things that people actually care about.
Well, let me tell you what they care about. Because I actually do spend a lot of time
so do I.
Like
I can assure you, Trevor.
Being lectured by people on the buses and the tubes. And one of the things they will care about is seeing Britain's next Prime Minister in the company, day after day, of a man who has been convicted of money laundering. It's not a good look, is it?
He's an old friend of Nigel's.
No,
he has no role.
I don't care if he's an old friend. He's been convicted of money laundering.
He has no role within reform. There's no story here, Trevor.
What the next Prime Minister... Oh, really? You don't mind what our next Prime Minister... who our next Prime Minister hangs out with? You don't care about that.
Trevor, this is
People
the... Trevor.
If it was Andy Burnham, you would be...
Well, no one's
scrutinising
scrutinising anything to do with Andy Burnham at the moment. The man's just... drifting into number 10 with no scrutiny. We've seen where that's gone in the past. It happened with Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. Total disaster.
At least acknowledge that for
Trevor,
the average person,
you're wrong.
There is a question to be asked.
You're wrong. With respect for you, Trevor, you're wrong. The country is in dire straits. People want change. They want journalists like you and Westminster to stop muckraking about Nigel Farage and to talk about the things that really matter.
I don't want to go on that.
I think it's the most interesting one, the GB News clip of Robert Jenrick being grilled.
What kind of person that Nigel Farage should be associated with?
It's just an old friend of his.
Right.
He's got no role in
Are you
reform.
friends with many convicted criminals out of interest?
Well, people do make mistakes in life.
But are you friends with any convicted criminals? Do you take money from them? Do you have your security paid for by them? Do you stay at their houses? Any convicted criminals
Nigel is
at all?
allowed to have a friend.
Could you just answer that question?
He's allowed... Well, I have met people over the years who've made mistakes. Yes, Camilla.
But
and I do believe in second chances, actually.
Do you not believe in that? Or have drivers paid for, or indeed take staffing advice and provide accommodation for a convicted criminal?
Camilla,
it's perfectly legitimate for people to question
this. This is a very old story, which has been dredged up.
Posh George has been around for some time, I know that.
It's been dredged up by the left-wing press to try and do Nigel down. It's not going to work, and I tell you why.
If the Telegraph
because what
had
the public
this, would you have
actually
said
care
that?
about... Sorry?
If the Telegraph had reported this...
Well, sometimes even people like yourself, Camilla, who write in the Telegraph, do have an agenda.
Right.
And it is often to try and drag Nigel down because they don't want change.
But let's be honest,
if I may just finish the point,
if
what matters is change.
You'd be
people
all over
want
it like
real
a
change
rash.
in this country.
Okay.
And the only way to deliver that is a reform government. We should all expect more and more attacks like this in the months and the years to come until we get that general election, because the political establishment, Tories and Labour, and the press that have backed them for donkey's years are going to fight tooth and nail to stop that from happening.
I understand your position on that. You're saying that he's the victim of some kind of witch hunt. OK, that's fair enough. Why I raised the Christopher Hardborn $5 million is because we have got an investigation into that money received in the 12 months before
the Tory Party
Nigel
chairman,
Farage became an MP.
Wrote to the Parliamentary Standards Committee and so they're having to look into it.
If it's investigated that he received £5 million in the 12 months before he was an MP under the Code of Conduct, then equally, if he's received money from George Cottrell before he was an MP and it's found to have reasonably being thought by others to influence his actions or words as a parliamentarian, then it could be investigated. If he's got nothing to hide, it doesn't matter, does it?
Well, sure. Look, nothing's going to happen on either of these two fronts because there's nothing here. The $5 million, as I've said many times before to you, was a personal gift from a friend. Nigel has good friends who supported him in the past. Are you really saying that any of this would influence Nigel's principles and values?
Like, it's so bad. It's so bad. And it's not going away. It is not going away. I just want to show this next clip as well because it's really funny.
He did once say that he couldn't be bought. Now, he's taken money from George Cottrell. He's taken money from Christopher Harborne. He's now been revealed to have, I think, 5 properties. Can you confirm that? Do you know how many properties he has?
Well, so Camilla, you are now anti-people owning homes.
No, not
you?
at all.
He has
but
to
I'm
live
saying
somewhere.
no. I'm talking about him and his previous statements about being
It sounds like Camilla Tominey, GB News presenter,
right.
Daily Telegraph columnist,
all those things.
has drunk the Kool-Aid of the left-wing press. Is now knocking a man for the fact that he's managed to buy himself a holiday home.
Have you drunk some
and his daughter
Hang on a minute.
a house.
Robert Jenrick, have you been downing turquoise Kool-Aid?
Jenrick claiming Tominey is just, anti-owning homes when she's pretty much like the biggest Tory going, who's propped up, the Reform Party constantly and defended them. Now, after Jenrick defended Farage back-to-back on multiple shows, the Times clearly knew and predicted what the defence would be and pulled an El Clasico journalist move on them and released a photo of this. This is a Reform business card with George Cottrell's name and Farage's email, making it seemingly appear he does in fact work for the Reform Party, and therefore any funds or support that was provided should have been declared in an official capacity. Curtis, let's bring Curtis back in. Talk to me about Jenrick's defense first, and we'll talk about the business card and stuff after.
It was really interesting to watch. It was really entertaining. I love that last clip where he's like, Camilla, you're anti-home ownership now. What a crazy thing to say. I think it really demonstrated that, like I said, this isn't going away, and they don't really have a defense, because I don't know how anyone could look at these series of clips and say Jenrick did a good job of defending him. He really, really didn't. Now, there is that classic politician move, which, works quite often. Like, never apologise, double down, get your talking points in. I get that, right? I mean, the left should be doing that far more. When you've got hostile questions from the media, you could just say, look, that's not an issue. This is the issue. This, right? Of course, Reform do that a lot. Nigel Farage does that a lot. But this is a big issue, okay? It's not about the hypno-boob story. It's not about, apparently, Zach Plansky was cleared of the council tax thing, right? But they kept dredging that up. And interestingly, by the way, the whole story of Nigel Farage, the BBC released a headline about the council tax thing from Zach Plansky. Again, he's been cleared. Why are they bringing that up? So you can't just sort of bat that away. You can't say, well, this is what people really care about is bills and stuff. It's like, well, people do care about corrupt politicians, and people do care about, lots of money being funneled into political parties. So he did a really, really bad job, but specifically on GB News, to sit there and kind of say Camilla's and the Telegraph and the Times are basically acting like left-wingers is really, really telling. And again, no one would fall for this. Look, we've seen Richard Tice go after the Times, and of course Robert Jenrick. They've said, oh, it's a Labour paper, it's a left-wing paper. It's astonishing. It's the Times. It's a Murdoch-owned paper. It's a centre-right paper, which does do good investigative journalism, but their editorial is nowhere near left-wing or Labour. The only ever time Rupert Murdoch has ever backed the Labour Party is when they swung to the right. He backed Keir Starmer in 2024 and he backed Tony Blair. That's the only 2 times they've done it. But the reason why Rupert Murdoch has done that is because in both instances, the Conservatives were never going to win and they didn't want to look irrelevant, and because the Labour Party under Blair and Starmer were acceptable to the establishment. As we were saying before, they've taken corporate donations and stuff. So they just became the establishment party. But they're not left-wing. They're not ideologically left-wing. It's crazy. Now, the Times, a couple of journalists did point out and say, look, you're trying to say that we're factional, we have an agenda. Here are the amount of times we've attacked Labour, called them out. They talked about Morgan McSweeney. They've attacked Jeremy Corbyn. They've attacked Angela Rayner. And basically, there's just a list of different stories that the Times have gone after Labour. It's just this time it's Reform. And the problem is Reform and their politicians, they cannot handle scrutiny. They can never handle scrutiny. Anytime they do something wrong and the media asks them questions about it, it's always, oh, such foul play. Oh, the media is against us. Richard Tice keeps on saying, oh, we're anti-establishment. That's why they're against us. I'm pretty sure Okay, a guy named Posh George, right, is giving you loads of money. Christopher Harbin giving you my £5 million. That doesn't make you anti-establishment. And we're finding out that they're very much the establishment. But those were a series of car crash interviews from Robert Jenrick. They clearly didn't send their best media operative. They could have sent Layla Cunningham. I think she's far better in the media. It's funny that she's always been, put on the media when she's just a counsellor, but clearly she's an effective communicator. That's what they think anyway. So I don't know why Robert Jenrick was the one who was there defending it, especially when he's got his own issues going on too. I thought it was masterful from the Times to bring up that image of, the business card of George Cottrell. And of course, they probably waited for the excuses to get in to say, he's not here in a professional capacity, it's just friendship. It's just a personal thing. Well, here's evidence that he literally has a business card of reform. He's clearly working in a professional manner. In fact, you don't just give money and you don't just give houses, really expensive houses, to people on a personal note. There's always a political reason behind it. And I don't know how much longer Nigel Farage is going to last, truly. I think we've speculated, me and you, Lewis, what are the reasons he could go? Is he going to go from external pressure? Are Reform MPs going to turn on him? Or is it the fact that he can't personally take it? I don't think our media and our political system does a good enough job of disposing people like Nigel Farage. So usually it's their own decision. And I think it's probably more to the fact that he probably can't personally handle it. I mean, there's lots of people speculating that he doesn't even want to be Prime Minister. And I'm kind of buying into that idea more and more and more, because the kind of power Nigel Farage wants isn't the administrative power of being Prime Minister. He doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want that responsibility. I don't think he's ever wanted that kind of power. The power he likes is to be that broker, to use the states to give power to his friends, the George Cottrells or the Christopher Harbins or the Nick Candys of the world. That's, I think, where he is comfortable, and that's what he's all about. I don't think he ever wants to be a political figure in a sense that he holds any kind of administrative power. Because if you think about it, in terms of admin power, he hasn't had much of it. He's been, you could say, the most popular politician, or at least the most influential politician we've ever had. But he did it all by not being an MP and then only recently becoming an MP. But he doesn't have any ministerial roles. And I'm just thinking, is that actually what he wants? Maybe he doesn't have any desire to climb up the political ladder, but he wants to be that power broker to allow our country to be completely looted by the billionaires and the corporations. I want to know, Lewis, what you think. Do you think that Nigel Farage can survive this?
I don't think it's about him not surviving it in terms of the allegations and the investigation against him. I don't think he'll be able to take it. I think it's very clear from just the rounds of interviews that he did the other day. Was it last weekend or early last week? And that was mostly focused
when he came back for the 10 years on Brexit, and he was
and it was all about the £5 million, right? You can clearly tell that he doesn't like it. He doesn't enjoy. Obviously, most people don't enjoy it, but a lot of people who've been maybe not in the exact same situation, but in uncomfortable situations, he cannot handle it. He cannot handle scrutiny, which is quite similar to Trump in a way. He just handles it quite differently, and it's almost like, again, the dismissiveness of like, oh, nobody cares, which actually Robert Jenrick repeated as well in some of his interviews, that nobody cares. I don't think it's a case of him not surviving the investigations, because ultimately he still has a lot of support in Clacton. And so what's likely, I think, going to happen is that this will all lead to an investigation into the committee finding that he's done something wrong, and then into a by-election, and he could win that by-election. If it's the worst case scenario, which is they prove criminality, he can be literally kicked out of Parliament, but there's actually nothing in the rules that stops him from running in that seat if there's a by-election. So there's actually no ultimate punishment, essentially, but I don't think it'll come to that. I think because there is so much more dodgy stuff going on here that hopefully will come out soon. I can't say that I know anything for certain. I know some things, but because there is so much more that could be explored and so many more avenues that are out there in terms of these connections, more will have to come out. One thing that I think is really interesting and worth pointing out, the Times did mention this in their article, but there is a story attached to this, but they can't connect the two, which is there was allegations that while George was in Montenegro, he was renting out this penthouse while he was there, or living in a penthouse. It may or may not be owned in another person's name, but that's still to be proven. But they were allegations of like sex parties and stuff. Now in 2023, at the exact same building that George Cottrell is living in, there were arrests because there was a party going on. They arrested a bunch of people and found out that they were basically trafficking women at the age of, I think they were as young as 18, from everywhere from Israel to Ukraine to a few other kind of countries that are classically associated with this type of human trafficking. Whether that's connected to George Cottrell and his presence in that same building, we do not know, and we cannot prove that in any way yet. But it's just a coincidence that it's in the same building. There are so many more things that could come out of just this investigation that all these people are connected to, which for all we know, the Times already has more information on this. We just don't know. They can't publish everything all at once.
No, of course. But what you're saying is that you think it won't be that Farage could go from this particular story, but there's going to be more stuff coming out and it's going to be relentless, then he's going to go. Like,
yeah.
In general, do you think that Nigel Farage is going to be there at the next election?
No, I don't. I think he's. I don't think his ego will be able to take not being able to win everything. I think he'll step away at a point where he says that Reform are doing well, and then when they lose and they don't win because they can't win without him, he'll say, "I left the party in good standing." I don't think he'll be able to. His ego will be able to take losing after all this momentum, and I think he'll step down. I really, truly do.
It's almost as if he would rather step down. Like he could, if Farage stayed on, he could lose the election. He would rather step down before that because he doesn't want that feeling of losing, and he has the excuse by saying, "Well, I stepped down, and look what happened."
I'm sure Jenrick's already planning a leadership competition or something. He's a snake.
Well, this is the thing, though. Like, and because it's still a personality cult with Farage, like his support is just Farage. Even when me and Callum went to Makerfield and we spoke to people, they were saying Reform a lot, sure, but they were always saying Farage. In fact, not a single MP apart from Farage was mentioned. Now, maybe that is just typical of your average voter, but I don't think there's any other talent. It's similar to the Labour Party, actually. There's not much talent, is there? There is zero talent from Reform MPs. I mean, who is it going to be? It can't be Zia Youssef, because the guy, he admitted he wanted to be an election candidate and the party won't allow him. So he'll never be one because the party doesn't like him. And I've heard that he's a kind of a loose cannon. He's not actually well liked in the party. This is just whispers.
Like Tyson,
but who else could stand up?
Tyson isn't a terrible talker, but he's not good at the same time. He's not. He's kind of sometimes good at kind of being combative towards the media. If you were a Reform supporter, it might look good. Not that I'm saying he's very good, and he's also not charismatic. You've got Robert Jenrick, who's like kind of better at that kind of game. He's tried to go down even that very good, and
he has the baggage. Sorry to cut you off, but he has the baggage of being a Tory MP and a Tory minister.
And an immigration minister.
Well, exactly. Like literally, the problems they rally against, right, were enacted by Jenrick. Tice was the Reform Party leader. We have to remember this. It wasn't Farage. Tice was the leader. I think Farage was like the president, and then he got cucked out. Farage was like, "Oh, I'm coming in now." And I feel like Tice would be the natural replacement.
I'm voting for Sarah. Sarah Pochin.
Sarah Pochin. I would love to see that, by the way. Truly, truly terrible in every single measure. Who, by the way, I think she's probably going to lose her seat. She won by 6 votes this time.